one of the major issues in our country is something called inequality, where the gap between the people who have and the people who don't have is too wide. And Mr. President, the only tool that bridges the gap of inequality, the only fair tool of redistribution is education. The other fair tool of redistribution is making sure the population, from those who have to those who don't have, are healthy. Mr. President, you need resources for all of us to go to school. Even the child of a person like me being brought up when I was young. Mr. President, we have to avail these resources to you so that even the child of a poor person can go to the school of their choice. And I am sure you're already doing that. That a third of our budget is going to education, and especially to the education of the people who would otherwise not afford education. And I allowed you also lastly, because of the reforms you are doing in the higher education. I want to shock the Kenyan people that previously, you know, the majority of the people who are dejected, their children go to day schools. In the recent past, over 5,000 schools in Kenya have not producing even a single student to proceed to universities. The people in day schools are not the people who would afford private universities. And the reform the president is bringing is to ensure even that child in day school, somewhere in Karachuonyo, somewhere in Ukabani, somewhere in Murang'a, they also have got an opportunity to be what they can be in life. Mr. President, you came to a country where our public debt is 9 trillion Kenya shillings. You came to a country where inflation was almost going to double digit. You came to a country where much of the workforce, the able workforce, 36% of those who are qualified to work have no jobs. You came to a country where we are not even able to feed ourselves. Mr. President, you had a choice to make us continue in bliss and enjoying ourselves in oblivion, or make the hard choice, make us tighten the belts now for us to have long-term stability in the future. And I am glad that is the route you have taken. And I want to request my fellow patriots, my fellow countrymen, it is very easy for a president to please the nation. Very easy. We may not even have to pay taxes. We may not have to do too much. But then what are the kind of countries that are in that kind of situation? And I want you to compare all the countries with very low taxation. We compare with their standards of life. And I agree, and you agree with me, the president has chosen the stability side. And after doing that, what is the situation now? Some of our peers in terms of countries, a country like Turkey, which is part of OECD countries, rich countries, their inflation rate is over 70%. Some of our neighbors here, and I can't mention names, their inflation is above 33%. As we talked last year, the inflation of Kenya is currently 7.9%, and it is headed even lower, and especially after the blessing of rains. And therefore, Mr. President, may I beseech you as a leader, I know that as a human being, I have to be compelled to do my bit, but your obligation is bigger than my wish now. And I plead with you, wewe ukwame hapo kwa future ya Kenya, kwa sababu in a year or two, Kenyans will appreciate the reason why we have to tighten our belts. I have heard many stories out there. People say, you know, we had subsidies, this at the time, we had subsidies that at the time. I am the chairman of budget in the National Assembly, and I want to confirm to the Kenyan people, the subsidy you hear that was there, the subsidy in terms of oil, the subsidy in terms of unga, I can confirm even the subsidy of oil is being paid by none other than His Excellency William Ruto and this administration. What we enjoyed then is postponed subsidies. Enjoyment was then, the payment is now. As we talk, even the subsidy we enjoyed last year, 40 billion shillings in subsidies of fuel, it is being paid by this current administration. And therefore, We are not trying to blame anyone, but it is responsible for us to tell the Kenyan people where we are so that we also appreciate where we are headed.